Right, welcome everyone to another episode of the Love Island cast. I am Chris Phelps, and my co-host is Mr. Dave Horrocks.
Hey Chris, can't wait to get our teeth into this one, I have to say.
Yeah, me too. It's been a strange couple of days. We've had no episode last night. We're filming this Sunday morning. We've got an episode coming tonight. And I think it's given us a bit of time to sort of, bit of perspective. And for me personally, well, actually what happened on Friday, because it was quite an interesting show, Dave. I mean, what did you think of it?
Well, I mean, we've got to start with the whirlwind that is Maura, haven't we?
Oh, my word, yeah. I've never seen anything like it.
So, I mean, obviously this is my first season, so has someone done this sort of thing before, or is she, more extreme?
She's very, very extreme. We've seen men and women go in there and be very upfront and sort of, they know what they want, or they have no moral conscience about splitting couples up, trying it on, taking different couples who are like the power couples on dates. I've seen it on the Australian Love Island as well, especially the Australian one, Dave. I mean, those guys come in and they don't give a fuck. They just come in and like, let's just go for it, But she is on another level, and more for me, it's the upfrontness of it. Now, I said to you completely that I was like Team Maura and everything, and it's strange how a couple of days affects you. I like the fact that she's gone in there and stirred it up and made the show worth watching more. And like you said the other day, you've enjoyed it anyway. You've never seen it, and it's quite a good line. You said, like, I'm getting worried because I've been enjoying it anyway. If it's going to get worse, how more engrossed are you going to get? But genuinely, I must admit, on Friday, I found that uncomfortable viewing when she was trying to put it on Tommy. She was trying to kiss him, because I don't know how you felt about that, Dave, but it just seemed that was the only time I can truthfully say, and I've enjoyed what she's done in the villa. Is I did feel uncomfortable watching that.
Well, the fact that she is a little bit older as well just makes it uncomfortable watching, and it's ironic, isn't it? So old Tyson Fury, he was doing a fair bit of dodging and weaving, wasn't he, in his fight last night? And it was reminiscent of Tommy there. He's like, nope, go away. So, yeah, and, if it was the other way round, I think there'd be outrage, wouldn't there?
The warden and Sam, obviously my wife, who does listen to every single episode, she actually said, if I could drop that in there, and said, as a woman, from a woman's perspective, she was more angry than me. I mean, I think from a man's perspective, if you were single and a girl, and I know it sounds totally hypocritical, but if a girl's putting it on you like that and you're single, it's very difficult to say no. And he isn't really in a relationship with Molly Ray, but obviously it's a different, as you said, pressure cooker environment. But she said that was totally wrong, because she said if that was a man doing that with a woman, they'd be calling for his head. We'd have David Beckham effigies everywhere, wouldn't they? Calling for Tommy to be kicked out, to be arrested. And I think that's where, and I'm not going to go too deep into it, but where sometimes society is slightly different, that the perspective from a woman doing it to a man or a man doing it to someone is completely different. But I do think it was totally inappropriate.
Yeah, and I think she's absolutely gone in there with a game plan. I mean, she is the ring girl, and she's gone after the boxer. She had the dates with Michael and Danny, but I don't think she had any interest in that at all, because it's all happened in such a short amount of time, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And completely unrelated to this, one of the French phrases that I always remember used to make us laugh in the classroom when we were getting taught was "Où est le bonk?" And I think we were in no doubt, though, where the bonk was.
Yeah, well, it's funny you should mention that, Dave, and Sam's going to laugh her head off at this, but I put a tweet out the other night on Friday, right, and Sam was disgusted with me. She was absolutely tears running down the face. I put, Tommy's got a bonk on or something, and Sam went, what the fuck is this? Something from the 60s or 70s? A bonk on.
I hadn't heard that for years, and so it was only when you tweeted that I thought, oh yeah, that's that's what we used to call it back in the day.
I don't know where it come from, but Sam was disgusted. She's like, just call it a fucking hard-on. That's what it is. But she was just saying, it's a fucking bonk-on. You know, I think she's waiting for Sid James to pop out, you know, like, you know, that sort of thing. But yeah, it was so I can only apologise.
The producers should have put some sound effects in there, shouldn't they? You know, the old...
I mean, I don't get me wrong. At that point, I was sort of invested in the fact that she was on him. Like, she's like, you know, is she not as turned on as I do and all this? And I'm thinking, wow, you know, this is like, if you're a single lad, it's every lad's dream, isn't it? But then it got so uncomfortable. And I've got to say, Dave, I'm slightly going off and I'm doing a proper 180. This might as well call this the Love Island 180.
560.
Yeah, the 560. It would be same as 640 next week. But it genuinely is, I don't know if she's a bit of a psycho, Dave, if I'm being completely honest. I think that was really bizarre. I mean, someone put, which was really funny on Twitter, I put like Maura's name in, and you're looking on what's trending, and someone put, Maura's gone in there, if this girl's as up front as this, if you've got a guy and she's putting it on your guy, just surrender him now because you're not getting your man back, you know, because it's like, he's totally right. I mean, I've never... Talk about being an empowered woman. She just doesn't give a fuck, does she?
No, and you know, she stands up for herself, so with the girls as well. So obviously the lads, they went on their spa day, and I have never seen anything like that, to be honest, Chris. They celebrated that like they just all scored a goal in the cup final. I've never seen blokes celebrate a spa day like that. So, you know, fair play to them, but it's just, it separates them from me in that respect, you know. So, but it was funny because when they came back, and Anton, I think, said, didn't he? He said he was expecting the girls to all be chilled out and relaxed, but you could cut the atmosphere with a knife. But, you know, I think the girls ganged up on Maura a little bit, you know, saying, shouldn't you have had a word with Molly May? Yeah. But she was absolutely standing her ground, wasn't she?
Yeah, and I respect her for that, because I think Amber's trying to be a bit like the alpha of the girls, isn't she? She's like trying to be the leader, and she was having none of it. And I think even Amber's a bit wary. I'm not saying she won't stand up or go with her if it kicks off, but I think she realises she's as strong as her. But I've got to say, Dave, going off that whole segment when they went to the spa, yeah, it was absolutely pathetic, that jumping up and down. I know obviously there's a bit of tedious boredom there at times because it's 24/7. They're not all doing activities and that. You know, what they actually edit is producing to an hour show. It's a lot to break down, but I will call out that I do think, and I know this is an explicit podcast, so you're going to have to forgive me again, but Amy is a fucking bitch. She's horrible, girl. She's playing an absolute game. She's playing more games than anyone else in there. The way that Lucy has been treated just for wanting to do her own thing, and she even admitted it. That's why she don't hang around with girls. Disgusting, Dave. There's no... That Amy tries to, like, explain and tries to, like, be honest with her, but nothing she says ever makes any fucking sense to me. It's just like, you're a bitch. You're trying to now backtrack by talking absolute gibberish. Nothing she said convinced me the other day that what she did had any logical reason. It was just her being horrible.
She was. She's absolutely, she's been very bitchy, very backstabbing. You know, she was talking to Elma, you know, and she makes things out. She is all about the drama, isn't she? So she said, oh, you know, she's made herself out to be this victim. She went and Joe basically told her to fuck off. Well, unless that was unseen footage, no, that's not what happened at all. But she's blowing it up into something else and, you know, making this thing to the new girls that she doesn't know, but making a big thing that Lucy's decided to spend a bit of time in the gym. Well, anytime we've seen the gym, the blokes are always there dominating it. So what's the problem with that?
Exactly. And also, she's a hypocrite for the same reason that the girls have all sat there sort of ogling all the blokes, haven't they, when they've been training? Which I'm not saying that's a right or wrong thing, but for the end of the day, she's just doing what she needs to do. She's a surfer. She keeps fit. Like I say, I'm coming more around to Lucy, and I will call myself out, Dave, because I don't know if you caught it, but I watched the unseen episodes last night. Mm-hmm. Did you see that at all?
I saw bits of it, but I'm not sure where you're going.
Well, I've been nothing but sort of against Joanna and nothing against Lucy. But when you watch the unseen bits, you can tell that the producers are showing a narrative because they actually look like a nice couple. Lucy ends up sitting on Michael's knee and Michael's taking the mix saying, I've got your girl, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
And he jumps in the pool and he's like, right, do a James Bond bit. And he does like, they're all, Joe, I know it sounds daft, but they were showing a human side to everyone like that. They don't show in that hour narrative. And a couple of the people who we didn't see a lot of, even like Anna's twerking with the girls and stuff and having a bit of fun, but we've not seen that on the main show. And I don't think, because obviously they do have a narrative to tell. I understand that Big Brother could be the same. People are quite Big Brother saying, that's absolute nonsense. You're picking a 5-minute conversation at 24 hours. I was doing this, this and this, but they don't think it warrants putting on TV. I'm not saying they don't know how to do the job, but it can show how they want somebody to win. And I do think that unseen one, for anyone who's not watching it, you've got to watch it. It's on the same time as a normal show, but on a Saturday. And it's really interesting to go in over the week before because you see loads of good little bits on some of the people.
Yeah. No, I must admit that was quite funny, that bit where Joe was coming out and doing the James Bond flick and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Just getting back to the whole Amy thing, you could see Curtis kind of making excuses for Amy, so when he's in the spa and he's talking to Joe and he's saying, Amy, she's never had a boyfriend before. Again, I've said from episode 1, I think that is just bullshit. I don't believe it. And as we go on, I think you see more and more that she's just full of shit in a lot of the things that she says. Yeah. And, it annoyed me because, when they were talking, I mean, the ironic thing is, Amy's there bitching to Curtis. Amy's with Joe all the time, but she's there with Curtis.
Yeah.
So it's totally ironic. And, what annoyed me about Curtis Day saying you need to be the bigger person. No, call her out for her bullshit. She's not. And Amy said, I've done nothing wrong. Yeah, you fucking have.
Yeah.
But she just can't see it. She just puts herself in that victim place. She's stirring up all this shit, trying to turn all the other girls against Lucy. And it's just not fucking fair, to be honest.
No, it's not. It's not. And I totally in agreement, Dave. I think I said to you, Dinner, you give it about a week or so, whatever, and then everything starts to unravel. And you can't be that nice for so long. If you are not a nice person pretending to be nice, you can only play that narrative for so long, Dave. And there's going to be times where you're just yourself. And I think this Amy, I think she's a lot older than what she's saying. I'm not calling her out. So. I think she's like mid-30s, mate. I don't believe for a minute she's in her 20s. She looks older. I'm not saying she's not attractive or anything like that, but for me, she seems quite unhinged at times. It's really bizarre, very jealous.
So I can't remember if it might have been episode 1. And I think it's a little bit of beginner's luck, I think, but I think I've nailed a few things. And I seem to remember saying with Amy, she's got a little bit of that Cameron Diaz look with a smell of desperation about her. Yeah. And I've seen nothing, to turn me away from that. I thought her and Curtis coupling up was a good thing. I think I felt a bit sorry for her the way Anton was coupled up with her and then straight away made a beeline for Lucy when she straightened out her hair and went out that night. But, there's something not right with her. And actually it would be quite funny if Maura got shunned from Tommy and made a beeline for Curtis. But yeah,
it's strange. And also as well, I want to sort of bring up, I'm sure people may have seen it over the last 24 hours, that it's come out finally what happened with Sherif and why he was booted off. There's a lot of things I won't go into on the show because this is a light-hearted look at the show. So if you do want to find out the exact ins and outs, then just put in online, Sherif and the Daily Mirror or the Sun or whatever. It's all on there. It's on every website you can think of what actually happened. Well, basically, I think he's kicked Molly May in the Lady Garden by mistake. But I think it was the comments he said afterwards to Tommy that's really infuriated the crew. And he was pulled a few times for some of the comments. He said some sort of racially motivated slurs, which some were saying was just part of conversation. Some were saying slang, but obviously you can't do that on TV. And it was a repeat offence where it was like, look, I don't think they could control him, Dave. So that's why he's got booted off. But I won't say any more than that. But also the rumour that he'd was splashing himself in the jacuzzi. I don't think that was correct. So we do need to sort of clarify that because it's now come out properly what's actually happened.
Yeah, but it was a little bit of fun. I don't think we ever really thought he was not in the jacuzzi anyway. But
no.
But yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's a lost in translation conversation the way he speaks down in London with his friends and that. Obviously, you can't use that sort of language on the TV and stuff. So, yeah, it is what it is, Dave. I've had to throw it in there. So he's gone and we'll never see Sherif again. Now, what predictions have you got for tonight's episode, Dave, before we go?
I mean, one thing that we should probably touch on again, I've got a spotted beginner's luck, but I did predict that we would have not Michael and Amber, Yewande and Danny.
Yep.
They were going to be the ones to kiss. So we saw the sneak preview. And I was just convinced if it had been Maura and Tommy, they wouldn't have reacted that way. And the fact that they were jumping around. Well, what did you make to that, by the way? Can you imagine that, having your first kiss with someone and then someone about 20 yards away going, yes, get in.
Yeah, I can imagine that maybe when I was about 14 or something, 13, 14 maybe. But yeah, I'm not, Dave, I've got to be completely honest. I'm not convinced by Danny, you know. I think she's all in on him, and I think he's playing her to stay in the actual villa.
Yeah, I'm not convinced. There's just something not quite right, you know. And he'd had that connection. He said he'd had that connection with Yewande, but yeah, in that first day, he went straight to Molly May and said, "You're exactly my type." Well, Molly May and Yewande are very, very different. So if he's telling that girl she's his type, he's either lying to her or he's not being truthful with Yewande. So, you know, he doesn't come off necessarily badly. I think there's a lot of things that he does that are right. And actually, to be fair, you know, we've sort of called out Maura a little bit for going headlong. But actually, the one bit that I thought where I warmed to her a little bit was when, you know, Lucy was obviously distressed. She was saying, you know, most of my friends are guys. I just get on with guys better. You know, Maura was sticking up for Lucy in that respect. You know, whereas Anna was saying that, you know, boys will never be there for you like, you know, girls will. You know, with all of her 20 years of life experience or whatever, you know, and so I thought Maura was okay there. But yeah, Danny, let's see how that plays out. But I don't see them as a particularly strong couple. I don't think it'd take a lot to disrupt them. No,
and I was just about to say that before we move off that section is I'm going to try and get a prediction right this time because you've been absolutely on the money. If anybody was having a bet, you'd need to follow the Dave Horrocks's predictions than mine. But I actually think, as you've just said, that Danny is going to have his head turned when the next set of girls come in. I really do. I think one of them is going to make a play for him. Exactly what you said about Tommy and Maura. She's come in to disrupt and to get that airtime. And I think someone's going to do it to him. And I think he'll take it, Dave, and he'll leave her in floods of tears because I have seen that a few times on the show. So I Mystic Chris is out with his little crystal ball for that one.
All right. Well, I kind of dodged and weaved, didn't I, in Tommy Fury style, actually giving a prediction. So
yeah.
I think, so right at the end of the episode on Friday, we saw Molly May, you know, ramped up by Amber, has gone over to Maura to have a chat. I think she's going to tell her that, you know, she's in it for a fight. And I actually wonder, I'm going to stick my neck out and say Maura is so forward, I think it might actually push him towards Molly May.
Yeah, I agree. I think I got that feeling towards the end of that episode, Dave.
Yeah.
I must have raved about her for a couple of days.
It does seem like a little bit of an unfair fight. You know, there's such an age difference between Molly May and Maura. You know, you do feel like Maura is definitely the more dominating personality and she's going to have that upper hand. But I don't like Molly May, but I do feel sorry for her. So in this particular fight, I'm rooting for her.
No, good stuff. Now, just before we go, Big thanks again. Downloads are going through the roof, guys. I really, really thank you. On Twitter, we're getting a lot of engagement and messages. So if you want to follow us on Twitter at Love Island Cast, or email the show at theloveislandcast@gmail.com. And honestly, if you want to leave a voicemail on Anchor, our hosting site, leave it and we'll tag it to the episode that you're talking about. And if you've got any questions for us, me and Dave will answer them and include them in the show. And big thank you to everyone. I think Ace is going to be coming on again this week. He's got plenty to say. We were hoping to get on this episode, but schedules have just missed off, and fantastic. Anything you want to say, Dave, before we go?
I'd just like to call out one of the messages that we did have. So this is from Lady Bage, or Ruthie Poppy on Twitter, and she's made a few predictions. So she said that Maura's going to get with Joe, as he's the only one who can offer a footlong.
She said so, yeah.
I'm not so sure about that one myself, but maybe if Maura does get shunned from Tommy, then all the boys better be very frightened. Because she is like a shark in that little pool there. She's also said Lucy will spend all her time in the gym and shrink so small that she'll disappear like Sherif. Anna will win Tommy's heart, as she's the only one non-desperate girl left. And finally, I'm just waiting for Danny and Sandy, in brackets Curtis and Amy, to start singing a collection of Grease songs. And she feels that there's money to be made in a Love Island the musical, which I think is a fair shout, to be honest. But for me, I can't see Amy off this show quick enough. I don't know. You said to me, didn't you, do the public get to vote people off, or is it just purely down to the couplings, or how's that going to work?
No, you will. The voting starts, Dave. So the app's on the voting, and what you do is you vote off.
Or the voting's on the app.
That could be even it. Yeah, that as well. But then what will happen is the last vote that anyone does is to vote for your favourite couple. So you end up voting for the ones you want voting off, and they'll say, right, we'll see you tomorrow. And then eventually, the last, like the Big Brother, really, the last round of voting is just simply which couple you want to win Love Island. Because you'll end up with like 4 couples on the last day, you see.
Right, okay.
So the dynamic changes. But this week, we'll have more men and women going in, I would have thought, Dave. There'll be a big shake-up. They've had it before where what will happen is, I don't even mention this to you or on the show, is when them lads went on the spa day, last year, they've done it for the last couple of years, is usually, I predicted there's usually about 5 or 6 new lads go in, and they spend the day with the girls and try and couple up, especially the ones who have been like pied off by their partner at the time and say like they split up and like they don't want to recouple. And this has happened a few times. And then the same will happen with the girls. The girls will go off on a day, like the spa day, and then the lads will end up with 5 or 6 girls coming in. And by the end of that day, they'll stay over with them for a weekend. They'll go away for like a weekend. So you get these new girls going in, or these new lads, or what I think it was last year actually. The 5 new lads came in with the 5 girls in their different villa. They had a separate villa, and then the lads got paired up with 5 girls. So, and then they showed them watching videos of them, like either copying off or stuff, even though they were coupled up. It's proper shit, Thursday, Dave. So that is something that'll happen. In fact, as I'm saying it does happen. They go off for 2 days and they end up with a whole new crew of lads and girls going in with whichever party it is. So it gets proper interesting. Proper kicks off, honestly.
Oof, well, if it proper kicks off, I think it's already proper kicked off. But yeah, let's see how that goes, I guess. But yeah, can't wait for this week. Can't wait for tonight. Let's see what's going to happen.
Brilliant. Yeah, and thanks everyone again, and we'll see you tomorrow for another episode, no doubt.